Hello there, this is DBT, and these are the rooms. And alright, let's continue playing some more Asphalt 9 on Nintendo Switch, and today I'm gonna be talking about some of the things that concern me a little bit in regards to the upcoming, impending arrival of Asphalt Unite, specifically for the Nintendo Switch. Now, I already talked about how I'm very hyped and interested about Asphalt Unite and all of that for the global version, but there's a couple more things that I need to say when it comes specifically to the Switch version. Because, real quick, in case you're not aware, but I think anybody watching this that it's a Switch player knows about this, but the Switch version has a bunch of differences compared to the global version that I'm really concerned whether or not they're gonna stick around for when Unite releases. So in this video I'm going to be talking about some of the, let's call them, concerns that I have with the current version of the game, and even, you know, before Unite appears, and what are my concerns regarding once Unite drops, or what is being planned for Unite. So don't worry, we're going to talk about all of that. But first, if you enjoy my content, you know what to do, hit the like button, all of that good stuff. While I finish this race, by the way, because I wanted to start with a little bit of action, because hey, there's going to be a lot of talking over here. Well, there's always a lot of talking, but there's going to be a lot of non-action. So I wanted to start at least with a little bit of, hey, look at a fancy Lambo like the SC63 driving and somehow getting a pretty decent result. I did get beaten by a Chiron. I know that first place was a Chiron or some Class S car because that was going insanely fast. Well, I said it was a Chiron, but I beat everything else. And considering that this is a top speed track and I'm not driving a particularly fast car, I think that's a W. That's just my luck. I decided to bring the Zonda R and I get into Osaka. That's not gonna go well for me. But alright, the first thing that I want to talk about the current version of the game is the scheduling situation. Now, as a quick overview of how the Switch version has been working for a long time, the game used to be about a year and some months behind the global version because it released, well, a year and some months after the global release. So for that reason, it was always behind, and it stayed behind for a very, very long time. Now, at some point, I don't know, like maybe last year, a little before that, they started doing a bit of a move. Gameloft started doing a bit of a move here on the Switch, where they would try to at least match the seasons with 1 year of difference, meaning that for the game to be 12 months behind as opposed to, I don't know, 14, 15 months behind. What that did is to allow for seasons to happen around the same time only a year later, right? So things that would happen around summer, like, you know, the Rap Syndicate, well, that was more towards the end of the year, but you know, things that would happen around one period of the year in global, next year around the same time it would happen on the global, and that was a good thing because while we were still behind, it would still follow the same schedule basically. So that looked alright, and they stayed there for like that for a little bit of time. But at some other point, I started noticing, well, not only I, everybody started noticing that they started skipping some season, making some other seasons much, much shorter. And it's like, what is that about? And at that point is when I started, you know, guessing that what they were trying to do is actually to eventually catch up with global completely. Like I said, we were a full year behind, right? But at some point, we started seeing cars being added into the files of the game because obviously they're always on display. The cars that are in the game. We started seeing a bunch of cars that were not due for like another 8-9 months, and yet they were on the files already. Like, okay, what's going on? Then they suddenly added the Dunker board in a car hunt, something that had recently only happened in global a few months ago. So that's when we all started noticing, like, uh-oh, I think they're trying to catch up. You know, like and by catch up, I do mean like not for things to happen at the same time but 1 year later. No. For things to happen around the same time. And this was before Unite was announced. We didn't know what about Unite or anything like that. But yeah, it was obvious that they were doing something weird because they were shortening some season, just straight up skipping some other stuff. And what that caused, yeah, it was nice to get a bunch of the newer cars, and because the developers on the Switch version realized that, well, because we put all of these things much before than they should, there should be ways to get them in a, you know, for them to be acquirable in a different way than global, because you know that global, a lot of things are tied together, like, oh, you need to own this car from this event that happened 5 months ago in order to have access to this other, you know, that type of thing. So they started doing things differently on the Switch, and for the most part, that was a good thing. So it was hyped to be getting a bunch of those cars and whatnot. Fantastic. Just as a quick example is the fact that very recently over here on the Switch, we got a car hunt for the Lamborghini Invencible, which you know that in the global version, the Invencible was a Legend Pass car. So you can see the difference, and that all sounds good and dandy for sure. But that also brings some concerns now that we know that Unite is coming in a little over 2 months. Well, for this game to catch up to Unite, there's a ton of stuff that they need to skip. And that means, and this is my first real concern, that there's a lot of cars that we should be getting in a, let's call it, natural way, and instead, it's unknown how they're gonna be showing up. And that does worry me a little bit. So I'm gonna show you a list that someone compiled, a user by the name of Audano, a list of the cars that we have, well, you know, that the global version has, and here on the Switch we don't have at all. Once again, credit for this compilation to Audano in the Asphalt 9 Discord server. He's the one who put this list together. But here we go. So this, and some more that I'm gonna show you, are the cars that we still don't have even on the files in the global, in the Switch version of the game. We have the Nissan 370C, the Aston Martin Vantage V12 2022, very new. The Jaguar XJR 15, what is that, 15? Yeah. The Mercedes 2022 Showcase Vision car, the Formula E Gen 2, the CLK GTR, the Tomato P79, yeah, I know it's the Tomato, I call it the Tomato, P900, the Porsche Panamera Turbo S, the Noble M600 Speedster, the Tomato P72, the Celine S7, the Zenvo Aurora, Koenigsegg CC850, the Devel 16, of course, some other lower ranked cars, the BMW M4 GT3, the Huracan STO, the Lamborghini SC63, McLaren Solus, Apollo Evo, the DBS GT Zagato, Porsche 935, and the Frangivento Asfani. So that makes it 8, 16, what is that? 16, 22 cars that we don't have currently. That's a lot of cars, and granted, some of these cars are very, very, very new. That they were literally just added in the global version. Like for example, this one, the Tomato P900. This thing is still not available yet for global. It's gonna be in a car hunt in a couple weeks or something like that. So of course we're jumping a little bit into the super new, and other things that aren't all that new, like the 370C Neon Edition. But that's to give you an idea of how far behind the Switch version is from the global version. 22 cars that they need to make available in the next 2 months and a little bit in order for the Switch version to be, at least in terms of cars, on par with the global. So that's a lot of cars. And like I mentioned earlier, here in the Switch version, the developers have been pretty good at, you know, allowing players to get cars that perhaps, for example, were available through, I don't know, Summon Dates or something. Well, over here you can get it in a different way, maybe easier. Or a Grand Prix, they make it into Unleashed, things like that, right? So, still, the concern is that there's too many cars to catch up to. Too many cars. Because again, we're talking about, I don't know how many months, how many updates worth of stuff that we don't have around here. And that they're supposed to fit it within the, 2 months and, I don't know, is it like a little over 2 months before Unite drops, because in theory it should drop around the same time for everybody, right? So that is where the concern lies, like how are they going to make all of that available? For example, you know the whole thing about the Devel 16, and it's not that it's a car that I'm particularly interested in getting, but you know, oh, it was such a huge deal during its Drive Syndicate and all of that. We're not really going to have a time to do a bunch of Drive Syndicates that we're behind, you know, and all of those. Oh, did he crash? No, he just like that. Okay. So yeah, it's definitely a concern. How are all of these cars gonna be made available? And it also, you know, it didn't help that apparently the developers, I believe they're located in Romania, and apparently they had some sort of holidays recently. Oh, how am I in first place? Am I bidding a speed tail? How? Apparently they had some. Oh, there it is, just lagging out massively. They had some holidays, so basically this entire week that is ending was completely devoid of anything to do here in this version of the game, like nothing. And a bunch of this upcoming week also is gonna be empty because if anything, well, we'll see. Maybe something will happen by Monday, Tuesday. I'm recording this on a Sunday, but yeah, there's nothing to do. There's a car hunt for the Neo. And that is that. A special event for some tokens, which is nice, not too many tokens either way. But in a week where, you know, for the last, I don't know, several weeks, we have been in a mad rush here on the Switch, trying to do car hunts and do this and do that and blah, 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 because again, they're rushing to try to catch us up. And there was so much stuff to do during that period of time, but now, this time is like, oh yeah, there's nothing to do. Great. That's a wasted week where we didn't have, it would have been good to have some car hunts, for example, for cars that we don't have, that we're not gonna get normally. I don't know if I'm explaining myself, but anyway. So yeah, it was a whole bunch of times in which we were not able to do anything. Just to give you a quick idea, literally in special events, we could have had some special events going on. Special hunt, for example, like the Zonda R that just happened in Global, or things like that. Car hunts for some cars that we're not gonna get normally through, like I mentioned in the case of the Lamborghini Invencible, that it's a car that it was obtained throughout 2 months in Global, in 2 seasons, being the Legend Pass. Well, over here we're not gonna have time for that, so they made it into a car hunt, things like that. But no, all we got was just a couple of events for cars that we have had for a while, the Neo, the 4GT Mark II. It's like, really? They could have fit so much stuff over here and we got nothing. But hey, hopefully that's gonna be fixed this next week. It's just sad to see that basically an entire week is going, or well, a good part of a week is going, and we got nothing. But anyway, so another one of my current worries for the current version of the game is Quick Race. Now, you know that over here we have Quick Race, which is the only platform in which we have it. And in Quick Race, we have this sort of new or separate career mode. You don't really gain anything from doing it other than just, unlocking some tracks and whatnot. But while you can do all of these races, there's also this section, the custom race, in which you get to pick which track you want to do, Midwest, and then you select which version of Midwest, you select how difficult you want the AI, how many laps, all of that stuff, right? Now, it hasn't been updated for a while. There's still a couple of maps that we don't have that are already in the game. The last update we got was Buenos Aires, update in this game mode specifically, but there's already Greenland and Paris in the game, and yet it hasn't been updated. And not only that, even for the tracks that we do have, something like Buenos Aires, look, we only have 3 versions of it. There's, I don't know how many, like 9, 8 versions of Buenos Aires in the 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 120 second versions of the track, the forwards, the reverse, and all of that. We don't have all of that. In some other tracks, we do have some more, but Auckland, for example, a very old map, we only have 3 versions of Auckland. Nevada, we have 3. So I wish this was updated, because that is something that we're missing over here. We have been missing it for a while, but unfortunately now with the mad rush towards Unite, I don't think that they're gonna be fixing this in time. Now, let's talk about Unite, actual Unite, because this is another part that worries me massively. So let me see, just to show you a little bit precisely while we're here on custom race, let me go specifically to Osaka. I don't remember which specific version of Osaka it is, but I'm gonna put all of the AIs that I can, and hopefully this is gonna be one of those versions. So what I want to show you, hopefully this is gonna work out. Some maps in particular tend to be pretty laggy here on the Switch. Even in Global, they can give a little bit of issues if you have a low-end phone. But over here on the Switch is a very underpowered console compared to something like a PlayStation, to an Xbox, which, the game is also being released on. So this is a very underpowered console. And even as is, we have this frame rate issues, specifically when there's a lot of things that you're knocking over at the same time. Like in this map, that there's oh, look at that, there's even a cop car over there. Wow, that's cool. I wasn't expecting that. Whenever you're knocking down all the chairs and all of that stuff, we can get into a massive slowdowns. I don't know if it's gonna happen over here. Maybe it will. No, right now it's performing well. Okay, well, you can see a little bit of frame drops, but yeah, we can get massive slowdowns here and there. And my first concern with Asphalt Unite is that obviously Asphalt Unite is focusing so much into making the game look so pretty with the new lighting system and whatnot, that as it is, the Switch version already has troubles dealing with Asphalt 9 in the way that it is. Now, once they add even more fancy effects and all of that, it's just gonna be even worse. So I really hope that they're going to be adding display option or graphics options over here. You know that in the phones, specifically I think in Android, I'm not super sure that they're available on iOS, but on Android, phones tend to have some sort of graphics options to go into performance mode, go into normal, or go into higher quality graphics, right? And obviously that is going to affect how good or bad a game performs in the just in general, in the performance of the game. I thought I set up more laps. Okay, maybe I didn't. It's fine. I believe that iOS don't have graphic options because iOS is more like, oh, it's always meant to look the best. But over here, if we go to sound and display, we have nothing. I mean, we have the regular options for sound and whatnot, but we do not have graphics option. And this is what I said, that is one of the things that really worries me, because if as is we already have issues with the performance, imagine once they add better graphics, better everything, it's just gonna perform way worse. So I really hope that they are going to add proper graphics option, and I don't mean just a slider of you want it in performance mode or graphics mode. No, add some better options to disable, for example, motion blur that can be very costly in the performance, or when the game is rendering and all of that. Motion blur to disable, what is it called, depth of field visuals to disable, a bunch of little things that can really have an impact on the performance. Now if you want the game, I understand that obviously they want the game to look the best for the console, but if it looks the best but it performs like garbo, then what good is it? So that is my first concern, the graphics options. I hope that they are there, they add a bunch of graphics options, and not only here, to every platform, because it makes no sense to me that they expect, for example, even an iPhone where the performance tends to be pretty good, they want an iPhone 10 to perform the same as an iPhone 15. They won't. So why not have just graphics options in all of the platforms? Maybe not so much on Xbox, maybe not so much on PlayStation, where those are very powerful systems that should be able to deal with the game without any issues. But why not have options on Android, on the Switch and all of that, so that we can determine, oh, I want my game to look pretty or I want my game to perform. You know, that is my first thing that I'm worried about. Another of my concerns, though, that one being a bit less worrisome, because I believe it's still going to be around, is a split screen. Now, split screen was another one of these things that was very unique to the Switch version of the game, but I believe that now the Xbox also has it, and PlayStation is going to have it, so I imagine that we're still going to have a split screen here on the Switch. But I do hope, but I cannot count on it. Split screen, I think it's a fantastic thing in order to play with, I don't know, with your friends, with your family, or with whoever. So this is a great thing, especially for console versions of the game, because obviously you're not going to be doing a lot of split screen on your phone. It's not like, you know, there's much of a chance for that. But here in the console versions, I think that is a great thing. Maybe on PC as well, because, you know, you can plug another controller, whatever. I think you know what I mean by all of this. So split screen, I do hope that it stays around, but I hope that it's still offline. And that is another very big, important thing that I want to talk about in this version of the game. If we go to the settings, you're gonna find, where is it? Is it here? I always forget. Hold on, let me find it. Jesus Christ. Found it. It's just right there. Offline mode. We have this offline mode. I'm gonna activate it and set it up as play offline. Do you want to switch to offline mode? Keep in mind that you can always go back by having and stable blah 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 blah. Yes, I want to set it up. Now, this is a separate mode of the game. It's the same game, but a little bit different. I'll explain if you don't know anything about it. But basically, you can activate it by yourself, or it activates by default once you don't have internet connection. So, what is offline mode? Well, it is what it sounds like. You can play the game without an internet connection. I could literally turn my Wi-Fi off, and I could still play the game, which is the only console in which we're able to do this. Now, this includes a split screen, so that if you don't have an internet connection, but your friend or your family is there, I can still play. Come on, let's play with the cars that I own and all of that. And otherwise, if you're just playing by yourself, there's always quick race, which is again what I was talking about. Now, it is a bit unfortunate how this layout is set up, because in order for me to get to custom race, I have to scroll all the way to the left, and I get to custom race. This is annoying. Obviously, if you're playing in handheld mode, it's not a problem, because you can just tap on the thing. But otherwise, this is very annoying. But anyway, then, like I mentioned, you can select the whatever you want to play, and same thing, right? How many AIs do I want to play with? And then I get to select a car from my collection. This is exclusive to the cars that you already own, and you get to play them. And the beauty about this is that there's no fuel. In offline mode, there's absolutely no fuel requirements, so you can play with whatever car that you own at whatever state that you have it. Now, you cannot customize it, you cannot upgrade it, because those are obviously functions tied to the online functionality of the game, but I can still just go ahead and play with the car that I own, in the track that I chose in quick race, and not even having to worry about, oh, I only have 3 fuel and blah. Not at all. You can just jump in, enjoy the cars that you have, and that is a fantastic thing. Now, why do I bring this all up? Because again, I know that the Switch Play probably know about all of this. Well, because I'm worried that this is not going to be a thing anymore on the once Unite happens. And the reason why I said that is because from what I understand, and I don't know if this is true or not, but from what I understand, the whole objective of Game Love by doing Unite is obviously to merge the player bases so that there's more players playing at all times and whatnot. but also I wouldn't be surprised if it's done to reduce cost. I don't know if they're gonna keep a team dedicated to working on this version of the game, because here in regards to Asphalt 9 on the Switch, it's not the same team that works on this as the team that works in the global version. They're different teams. That's why they have the time to work on things in features that may not be available in other versions, precisely like offline, or simply by setting up different events and different timings and whatnot, right? So I don't know that Game Loft are gonna keep the team. I really hope that they do. But if they don't, are they gonna still maintain this? Are they gonna make sure that the game is still compatible with offline? That is what really concerns me. Offline, having a split screen, all of this stuff. I really, really hope that it sticks around. But if it doesn't, it's gonna be such a huge deal breaker, because these have been some of the reasons why I appreciate this version so much more, and I actually spend money on this version as opposed to the global version, because I like this one better. Not only because of this, because Jesus Christ, speak DBT. Some other perks that we have by being the version, this specific version of the game. All right, I'm gonna switch back to online just because what I need to explain, I need to, I need to be online. But yeah, I can turn it on and it's gonna restart and we can proceed. So, because in this version of the game, we do not have advertisements, there are some things that needed to be changed. For example, one of them is, when there is a car hunt, oh, well, you're gonna spend your 2 tickets. Not over here, you spend only 1 ticket, because there's no way for you to refill tickets with ads. Now, you can do it with tokens, obviously, but the ads have always been a bit of a blessing in order to refill tickets and all of that. So because of that, and the lack of the ads, we have a 1 ticket hunt, right? So that is something that I wish stays. But even more important than that is the refuel time of cars. Now, you know how cars of class S, the high class S cars, take 6 hours to refuel. Now, I don't think I have a car that doesn't have that is missing fuel over there. But for example, the Jaguar, it would take 4 hours to refill. Over here, 1 hour and 5 minutes. And those 6-hour cars in global take 1 hour and 12 minutes to refuel over here. To refuel, whatever. So that is another thing, because obviously if we don't have ads, there's no way for us to make the refuel faster. And waiting 6 hours is really, really something that it's not, not very nice. So because of that, we have this shorter refuel time. Will we keep this? I don't know. And I really hope that we do. Again, it's because of the lack of ads. So a bunch of these things are basically, I'm worried about that some of these perks that are exclusive to the Switch version are not going to translate into Unite. And I don't know, again, I'm just speculating over here. I could be wrong, and all of this could stick around, and that would be fantastic. But I am a little bit worried that in the search of rushing towards releasing Unite, they're gonna not take care of any of this, and they're gonna be like, whatever. They have to deal with things as they are in global now from here onwards. So it does concern me. All of this stuff really concerns me, and I hope that I'm wrong. But like I mentioned, these little changes is what make me enjoy this version of the game so much more. Yeah, we may have some performance issues in the game in terms of, lag when you're playing multiplayer and all of that. But, excuse me. But overall, it's these little changes that make the game so much more enjoyable for me. And that is why I prefer playing this version of the game as opposed to the global one. Okay, this is gonna be a bad race because it's only Class S versus a Class A car. It's fine. So, yeah, overall, I am very excited for Unite. I am very excited because of the whole thing of crossplay. Like, this is precisely one of the problems on the Switch version in the multiplayer, because the player base is much smaller. Once you're getting close to Legend League, you're gonna be matched in super unfair matches. Now, this also happens in global, but the difference between global, specifically on Android, I don't know about iOS, but the difference in global is that there's still a massive player base. So you're still gonna find people driving in Class S cars, but maybe not driving fantastic and all of that. Over here, the player base is smaller. So I think it's something similar to what happens in the iOS version, where there's a point where it gets very difficult to make progress, because you're gonna find people driving, like in here, their Koenigs, a Jesko, and their Venom, while I'm driving here with, well, a very good Class A car that I spent a lot of tokens on. But I think you know what I mean. So I'm really excited to have crossplay, because that is going to suddenly make the player base so much bigger, so the matchmaking will be faster. There's going to be a lot more variety as to the skill of players, so it's going to get really interesting. So I'm very excited about that whole part. And obviously, if they do improve the engine sounds, that is one of the main things that I have issues with. Asphalt 9, the horrible engine sounds. Well, this one is pretty good, actually. But for the most part, the engine sounds are pretty bad. So that is another thing that makes me super excited. So overall, I am excited about Asphalt Unite, but I'm just concerned, how is that going to affect the Nintendo Switch version with all of its particular idiosyncrasies that it has? So I don't know. I can only hope for the best, but I'm honestly starting to think of a contingency plan in case things go. What's the word? Ari? In case things go sideways with the Switch version, I have a bit of a contingency plan. I'll talk about that at some other point. But for now, all I can do is just wait, sit and wait, and hope for the best, and hope that the developers are gonna take into account these things that are very good in the game, even if they're not necessarily used by the majority of people. But oh well, let me know what you think about this whole topic. And in the meantime, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.